Pete Crow-Armstrong saying that he's really comfortable and he'd like to see the Cubs bring back Cody Bellinger. That's a bold statement from a young player that shares the same position with a former MVP. Shows you confidence, and it also tells you that he wants to win and feels like he can be on the field at the same time with Cody Bellinger, and it makes the Cubs better. We're going to talk about him and more. Thank you guys for hanging out with us here on the Cubs Baseball Channel. This thing started. Go Cubs. So everybody, welcome to the Cubs Baseball Channel. I'm Mick Gillispie at Broadcaster Mick, and it really is great to see you guys as I hang out with you from Key West, Florida, on my vacation. But I had to come on here and talk about this Cubs team and what's going on right now. All right, let's get this thing started right now with Cody Bellinger and Pete Crow-Armstrong. Now, we talk a ton about Cody Bellinger, and we have to. Look, it is the biggest story with the team right now. What is Cody Bellinger going to do? Is he coming back to the Cubs? Something that is kind of significant as far as the future of the Cubs goes comes from Pete Crow-Armstrong, because he is definitely seen as the guy that's about to take the torch and be the wave of Cubs players that are coming. And I'm telling you guys, there's players coming. He's the number one prospect, but he's also the best talent that the Cubs have. The big leagues last year, it didn't turn out the way that he wanted. Didn't have the success on the field that he's going to have this year. But at the same time, I think we all realize that he still is the future. And he said, hey, I want him to come back, talking about Cody Bellinger. And that joins a chorus from the Cubs team. Dansby Swanson, hey, I want the guy to come back. Kyle Hendricks has said that. Nico Horner, like the best players, they want Cody Bellinger on the team. And why wouldn't they? If your goal is to win baseball games, then of course you would want Cody Bellinger on the team. The bottom line, though, is trying to figure out how to do that in a reasonable financial way. Now, with that said, you feel like the Cubs are going to try to find that piece there where they get it at a responsible rate. And I think that for the players, just saying, hey, you know what? This guy's important to us. We feel like it's a good investment, makes it easier on the front office to go out there and sign him. And the other part of it is that he's so likable. I mean, the players really loved having him on the team. So we'll see. We've talked about it over and over again, who might be interested, how many years you would want to give a guy who struggled 2 out of the last 3 years. But let's not forget what we saw him do last year. He was certainly healthy. He brings that positive energy. You just want it to be a responsible deal, because you wouldn't want the Cubs to be kind of strapped as the future rolls on. Cubs saw one of their former players today find a new home. And it's kind of one of those sad deals, because, what you love about the game of baseball is when guys make a name for themselves, people that you necessarily wouldn't think would be in that role. And this is exactly what the deal is with Brandon Hughes. Remember, he was an outfielder, and then the Cubs came to him and they're like, hey, look, man, you're not going to make it as an outfielder. Why don't you convert to pitching? And it is a difficult task to do that. But he shot up through the organization and ended up getting to the big leagues and was a fantastic left-hander. 2022, he was one of the Cubs' best options out of the bullpen. 57 games. They used him constantly over and over again. He had a 3.12 ERA, a 2-3 record, 8 saves, and in 57 2/3 innings, he only allowed 42 hits. He walked 21 and struck out 68. So more than a strikeout per inning. Did a fantastic job, but last year, injury-riddled season, 0-3 record, 7.24 ERA, ended up in Iowa, never could get healthy, and at the end of the day, the Cubs gave up on him. And look, this is what happens with relief pitching these days. I mean, you have a very short leash. You're constantly looking to other teams to figure out who might be able to slot in there and kind of contribute to your bullpen. And at the same time, you just don't want to waste a lot of time if you don't feel like I is going to be able to turn the corner. But the Diamondbacks may have, pun intended, a diamond in the rough here if he gets healthy and gets back to what we saw him doing a couple of seasons ago. So, and honestly, great guy, and you wish him the best of luck. All right, big trade in baseball today, and it was made by the Milwaukee Brewers, the guys who have been so tough to deal with in the Cubs division, right? The NL Central. Now they just traded a former Cy Young Award winner in Corbin Burnes. And look, we're not going to get into what the deal was for the Orioles prospects. I know that Milwaukee got some very young, good talent back, and some middle infielder and some pitching and all that stuff. Look, the bottom line is this: 2024. The Brewers are going into the season without their ace. They just traded their ace to Baltimore. And the Orioles, look, they got a new owner. We talked about it. Cal Ripken sliding in back into the ownership to be good for the Baltimore Marlins. Now they get an ace on that staff that got to the postseason last year and got roughed up after dominating the regular season over in the AL East. But this helps them. Look, this is a great thing for the Cubs. Your top competitor just weakened themselves by trading an ace pitcher. A lot of this has to do with the financials of the game, man. They weren't going to be able to pay Corbin Burnes, so why not get rid of him now where you could get some prospects back? And, you're going to see this around the game of baseball as the television contracts continue to dwindle down, and teams don't have the smaller market teams don't have those big bundles of TV cash to pay guys. But, this is one of those deals that was made that didn't surprise me. I knew they weren't going to trade into the Cubs. I'm sure the Cubs would love to have had Corbin Burnes, but after taking Craig Counsell, there was absolutely no way that they're going to make a deal with the Cubs. And, so that was something that you're going to look back on and you're going to be like, oh, yeah, the guy's going to win like 15 or 20 games for Baltimore. And, about 2 years, like the players that they got back, and, be like, okay, yeah, these are the guys that came the other way in the deal. All right, final thing I want to talk about on the show today is just kind of like a Cubs family thing. And I didn't even know that Otis's real name was Tom, but Otis Helman passed away after 40 seasons with the Cubs and 50 years in Major League Baseball. He was the clubhouse attendant for the Cubs. And he was a great guy, and I got the opportunity to travel with the Cubs in career. I've been around the Cubs for a long time. Otis has always been a really nice guy to me, and he's meant a lot to the team, to the players. And what you don't see every day is that it's guys like Otis and all of the things that those guys do to make it easier on the players and on the staff that travel with the club. And honestly, I just think about how significant this job is. Yosh, who was the guy that was there before, and listening to Ryan Sandberg tell me stories about, hey, the guy would just give us numbers, they go in and Yosh would hand us our numbers, and he told me I was going to be 23. That's how I got 23. Otis was an institution, really, like, great guy, really nice guy. It meant so much to me when I traveled and got to hand them my suitcase, and they put it in my room and made me feel like I was one of the guys, and I know it was just some spring training games, but breaks my heart, and I think that the entire community the guys that have been in the big leagues, that have been around Otis, that have spent time with him, are all kind of feeling like I am today, like really sad. So condolences to his family, the entire Cubs family. And I can tell you guys, like, when these are the people that make the Cubs a special place. And I've always liked that. Sometimes people get into the organization, like basically I filled out a job and I got here, and they come and they go. Otis was part of the reason why it's a special place. What I think the Cubs are, to me, top in Major League Baseball as far as organizations, people, and why I love them so much. And so prayers obviously to his family, and prayers to him. And we thank him for his great work with the Cubs. And this is somebody that will always be remembered in Cubs baseball history. And sadly, we lost Tom Otis Helman yesterday. So sadly, guys, the show's going to end. But we'll talk to you again as soon as something breaks. Maybe today's the day that the Cubs get Cody Bellinger. But we'll talk to you guys again soon. Thanks for hanging out. Get in the comment section and, comment on anything we're talking about today, including Otis. Go Cubs.